should we read? We're still in the middle of chapter 10, where they're at the opera. And Chauvelin is talking to Marguerite. He is trying to convince her to join his side, see what she's been able to gather information on, and she's like, I'm not doing that. So in my particular reading of this, which there are many people may think this is a misreading, and maybe it is, but I am reading it with Chauvelin as more of a sympathetic character, since he is for revolution and the liberation of the working class from aristocracy, and looking at Marguerite and Sir Percy as being more of the villains. Okay. Hi, Tiny. Okay. Let's see. So they're still in the box. And this is Marguerite. Well, she said suddenly and irreverently, and with the same feigned unconcern. Well, citoyen, he rejoined placidly, about my brother? I have news of him for you, which I think will interest you. But first let me explain. May I? The question was unnecessary. He felt, though Marguerite still held her head steadily averted from him, that her every nerve was strained to hear what he had to say. The other day, citoyen, he said, I asked for your help. France needed it, and I thought I could rely on you, but you gave me your answer. Since then the exigencies of my own affairs and your own social duties have kept us apart, although many things have happened. To the point, I pray you, citoyen, she said lightly. The music is entrancing, and the audience will get impatient of your talk. One moment, citoyen. The day on which I had the honor of meeting you at Dover, and less than an hour after I had your final answer, I obtained possession of some papers, which revealed another of those subtle schemes for the escape of a batch of French aristocrats, that traitor de Tournay, amongst others, all organized by that arch-meddler, the Scarlet Pimpernel. Some of the threads, too, of this mysterious organization have fallen into my hands, but not all, and I want you. Nay, you must help me gather them together. Marguerite seemed to have listened to him with marked impatience. She now shrugged her shoulders and said gaily, Same. Those blasphemous Frenchies, am I right, Orczy? Exactly. Bah, man, have I not already told you that I care not about your schemes, or about this Scarlet Pimpernel? And had you not spoken about my brother? A little patience, I entreat, citoyen, he continued imperturbably. 2 gentlemen, Lord Anthony Dewhurst and Sir Andrew Ffoulke, were at the Fisherman's Rest at Dover the same night. I know, I saw them there. They were already known to my spies as members of that accursed league. It was Sir Andrew Ffoulke who escorted the Comtesse de Tournay and her children across the Channel. When the 2 young men were alone, my spies forced their way into the coffee-room of the inn, gagged and pinioned the 2 gallants, seized their papers, and brought them to me. In a moment she had guessed the danger. Papers? Had Armand been imprudent? The very thought struck her with nameless terror. Still she would not let this man see that she feared. She laughed gaily and lightly. Same. That's my laugher. Faith, and your impudence passes belief, she said merrily. Robbery and violence. In England? In a crowded inn. Your men might have been caught in the act. What if they had? They are children of France, and they have been trained by your humble servant. Had they been caught, they would have gone to jail, or even to the gallows, without a word of protest or indiscretion. At any rate, it was well worth the risk. a crowded inn is safer for these little operations than you think, and my men have experience." "Well, and those papers?" she asked carelessly. "Unfortunately, though they have given me cognizance of certain names, certain movements, enough, I think, to thwart their projected coup for the moment. It would only be for the moment, and still leaves me in ignorance of the identity of the Scarlet Pimpernel." "La, my friend," she said with the same assumed flippancy of manner, "then you are where you were before, aren't you? And you can let me enjoy the last strophe of the aria? Faith," she added ostentatiously, smothering an imaginary yawn, "had you not spoken about my brother?" "I'm coming to him now, citoyenne. Among the papers there was a letter to Sir Andrew Ffoulke, written by your brother, Saint-Just." "Well, and?" "The letter shows him to not only be in sympathy with the enemies of France, but actually a helper, if not a member, of the League of the Scarlet Pimpernel." The blow had struck at last. All along, Marguerite had been expecting it. She would not show fear. She was determined to seem unconcerned, flippant even. She wished, when the shock came, to be prepared for it, to have all her wits about her, those wits which had been nicknamed the keenest in Europe. Even now she did not flinch. She knew that Chauvelin had spoken the truth. The man was too earnest, too blindly devoted to the misguided cause he had at heart, too proud of his countrymen, of those makers of revolutions, to stoop to low, purposeless falsehoods. Saying that he's blindly misguided is wild. We also have to acknowledge how Marguerite, her views were more for the common people. They were more revolutionary, sympathetic to the people resisting the aristocracy, taking it down when she was lower in class. And after she married Sir Percy, that she then became even more of a royalist, more conservative in her political views, more for the oppression of the masses. So as she rose in class, which was not really common at that time, so like the possibility of that happening was not very likely, it meant that her sympathies also changed with her politics. That letter of Armand's, foolish, imprudent Armand, was in Chauvelin's hands. Marguerite knew that if she had seen the letter with her own eyes, and Chauvelin would hold that letter for purposes of his own until it suited him to destroy it or to make use of it against Armand. All that she knew, and yet she continued to laugh more gaily, more loudly than she had done before. "La, man," she said, speaking over her shoulder and looking him full and squarely in the face. "Did I not say it was some imaginary plot? Armand in league with that enigmatic Scarlet Pimpernel? Armand busy helping those French aristocrats whom he despises? Faith, the tale does infinite credit to your imagination." "Let me make my point clear, citoyenne," said Chauvelin with the same unruffled calm. I must assure you that Saint-Just is compromised beyond the slightest hope of pardon." Inside the orchestra box, all was silent for a moment or two. Marguerite sat straight upright, rigid and inert, trying to think, trying to face the situation, to realize what had best be done. In the house, Storytime had finished the aria, and was even now bowing in her classic garb, but in approved 18th century fashion to the enthusiastic audience who cheered her to the echo. "Chauvelin," said Marguerite Blakeney at last, quietly, and without that touch of bravado which had characterized her attitude all along. "Chauvelin, my friend, we shall try to understand one another. It seems that my wits have become rusty by contact with this damp climate. Now tell me, you are very anxious to discover the identity of the Scarlet Pimpernel. Isn't that so?" "France's most bitter enemy, citoyenne. All the more dangerous as he works in the dark." "All the more noble, you mean. Well, and you would now force me to do some spying work for you in exchange for my brother Armand's safety? Is that it?" "Fie! 2 very ugly words, fair lady," protested Chauvelin, urbanely. "There can be no question of force, and the service which I would ask of you, in the name of France, could never be called by the shocking name of spying." "At any rate, that is what it is called over here," she said dryly. "That is your intention, is it not?" "My intention is that you yourself win free pardon for Armand Saint-Just by doing me a small service." "What is that?" "Only watch for me tonight, citoyenne Saint-Just," he said eagerly. "Listen. Among the papers which were found about the person of the person of Sir Andrew Ffoulke, there was a tiny note. See," he added, taking a tiny scrap of paper from his pocketbook and handing it to her. It was the same scrap of paper which, 4 days ago, the two young men had been in the act of reading, at the very moment when they were attacked by Chauvelin's minions. Marguerite took it mechanically and stooped to read it. There were only 2 lines, written in a distorted, evidently disguised handwriting. She read them half aloud. "Remember, we must not meet more often than is strictly necessary. You have all instructions for the second. If you wish to speak to me again, I shall be at G's ball." "What does that mean?" she asked. "Look again, citoyenne, and you will understand. There is a device here in the corner, a small red flower." "Yes." "The Scarlet Pimpernel," she said eagerly. "And G's ball means Grenville's ball. He will be at my Lord Grenville's ball tonight." "That is how I interpret the note, citoyenne," concluded Chauvelin blandly. "Lord Anthony Dewhurst and Sir Andrew Ffoulke, after they were pinioned and searched by my spies, were carried by my orders to a lonely house on the Dover Road, which I had rented for the purpose. There they remained close prisoners until this morning, but have found this tiny scrap of paper by intention. My intention was that they should be in London in time to attend my Lord Grenville's ball. You see, do you not, that they must have a great deal to say to their chief, and thus they will have an opportunity of speaking to him tonight, just as he directed them to do. Therefore, this morning, those 2 young gallants found every bar and bolt open in that lonely house on the Dover Road. Their jailers disappeared, and 2 good horses standing ready, saddled, and tethered in the yard. I have not seen them yet, but I think we may safely conclude that they did not draw rein until they reached London. Now you see how simple it all is, citoyenne." "It does not seem simple, doesn't it? Oh, it does seem simple. Whoops. Doesn't it?" she said with a final, bitter attempt at flippancy. "When you want to kill a chicken, you take hold of it. Then you wring its neck. It's only the chicken who does not find it quite so simple. Now you hold a knife at my throat and a hostage for my obedience. You find it simple. I don't. Nay, citoyenne, I offer you a chance of saving the brother you love from the consequences of his own folly." Marguerite's face softened. Her eyes at the last grew moist, as she murmured half to herself, "The only being in the world who has loved me truly and constantly. But what do you want me to do, Chauvelin?" she said, in a world of despair in her tear-choked voice. "In my present position, it is well-nigh impossible." "Nay, citoyenne," he said dryly and relentlessly, not heeding that despairing, childlike appeal, which might have melted a heart of stone. Not even for the liberation of people. She's against it. We also have to note how often she is described as having a childlike demeanor or manner. There is this infantilization that has historically happened under patriarchy to justify the oppression of women, but is portrayed and framed as being a good thing, that it is a virtue to be looking childlike, that there is this continual pressure to have eternal youth that is impossible to achieve, specifically for women. "As Lady Blakeney, no one suspects you, and with your help tonight, I may, who knows, succeed in finally establishing the identity of the Scarlet Pimpernel. You are going to the ball anon? Watch for me there, citoyenne. Watch and listen. You can tell me if you hear a chance word or whisper. You can note everyone to whom Sir Andrew Ffoulke or Lord Anthony Dewhurst will speak. You are absolutely beyond suspicion now. The Scarlet Pimpernel will be at Lord Grenville's ball tonight. Find out who he is, and I will pledge the word of France that your brother shall be safe." Chauvelin was putting the knife to her throat. Marguerite felt herself entangled in one of those webs from which she could hope for no escape. A precious hostage was being held for her obedience, for she knew that this man would never make an empty threat. No doubt, Armand was already signaled to the Committee of Public Safety as one of the suspect. He would not be allowed to leave France again, and would be ruthlessly struck if she refused to obey Chauvelin. For a moment, womanlike, she still hoped to temporize. She held out her hand to this man, whom she now feared and hated. "If I promise to help you in this matter, Chauvelin," she said pleasantly, "will you give me that letter of Saint-Just?" "If you render me useful assistance tonight, citoyenne," he replied with a sarcastic smile. Yeah, don't give it away for no reason. He's like, I need... you are not going to do this of your own volition. I need to coerce you. Which is what needs to happen for effective revolutions. Taking what power we can against the ruling class. "I will give you that letter tomorrow." "You do not trust me?" "No. I trust you absolutely, dear lady, but Saint-Just's life is forfeit to his country. It rests with you to redeem it." "I may be powerless to help you," she pleaded. "Were I ever so willing." "That would be terrible indeed," he said quietly, "for you and for Saint-Just." Marguerite shuddered. She felt that, from this man, she could expect no mercy. All-powerful, he held the beloved life in the hollow of his hand. She knew him too well not to know that. If he failed in gaining his own ends, he would be pitiless. She felt cold in spite of the oppressive air of the opera house. The heart-appealing strains of the music seemed to reach her as from a distant land. She drew her costly lace scarf up around her shoulders and sat silently watching the brilliant scene, as if in a dream. For a moment, her thoughts wandered away from the loved one who was in danger to that other man who had also a claim on her confidence and affection. She felt lonely, frightened for Armand's sake. She longed to seek comfort and advice from someone who would know how to help and console. Sir Percy Blakeney had loved her once. He was her husband. Why should she stand alone through this terrible ordeal? He had very little brains, it is true, but he had plenty of muscle. Nice. Surely if she provided the thought, and he the manly energy and pluck, especially these, very gendered terms, you can tell that Baroness Orczy was conservative in many ways. Together, they could outwit the astute diplomatist and save the hostage from his vengeful hands, without imperiling the life of the noble leader of that gallant little band of heroes. Sir Percy knew Saint-Just well. He seemed attached to him. She was sure that he could help. Chauvelin was taking no further heed of her. He had said his cruel either-or, and left her to decide. He was like, yeah, I have to do this in order to get intel. He, in his turn, now appeared to be absorbed in the soul-stirring melodies of Orpheus, and was beating time to the music with his sharp, ferret-like head. A discreet rap at the door roused Marguerite from her thoughts. It was Sir Percy Blakeney, tall, sleepy, good-humored, and wearing that half-shy, half-inane smile, which now seemed to irritate her every nerve. "Your chair is outside, my dear," he said with the most exasperating drawl. "I suppose you will want to go to that damned ball. Excuse me, Monsieur Chauvelin, I had not observed you." He extended two slender white fingers towards Chauvelin, who had risen when Sir Percy entered the box. "Are you coming, my dear?" "Hush, shh," came an angry remonstrance from the different parts of the house. "Damned impudence," commented Sir Percy with a good-natured smile. Marguerite sighed impatiently. Her last hope seemed suddenly to have vanished away. She wrapped her cloak round her, and without looking at her husband, "I'm ready to go," she said, taking his arm. At the door of the box, she turned and looked straight at Chauvelin, who, with his chapeau bras under his arm and a curious smile round his thin lips, was preparing to follow the strangely ill-assorted couple. A chapeau bras is a hat that could be folded and carried under the arm, worn in the 18th century on dress occasions. "It is only au revoir, Chauvelin," she said pleasantly. "We shall meet at my Lord Grenville's ball anon." And in her eyes the astute Frenchman read, no doubt, something which caused him profound satisfaction. For, with a sarcastic smile, he took a delicate pinch of snuff. Then, having dusted his dainty lace jabot, he rubbed his thin, bony hands contentedly together. See, the, very over-the-top descriptions of him being a villain, being like, yo, he looks like a ferret, he has a sarcastic smile, and it's like, he doesn't owe you all of this deference that you have come to expect from being in this upper class. So, support the revolution. Okay. That's gonna be it for me today. I'm gonna be back on Monday, per usual. I'm gonna free things up, so I'm starting more at the designated time that I have set of 2:30. But thank you for being here. Big stream today. I know, we went over a lot today. Hopefully it was in a harmonious manner, all of these dissimilar things, but I enjoyed myself. Hopefully you did as well. Thank you for the recommendation. Incredible. All right. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, and I will see you soon. Okay, bye.